So sit up straight and tall. Start to feel more rather than less. So I don't know about you, but have you ever heard of this idea of, I can't know if I've ever taught this, of a silent Om? Okay, so like there's, Om, supposedly, if the universe were calibrated to sound, which it doesn't have to be, but if the universe were calibrated to sound, the yogis are telling you it would most likely calibrate to the sound, the vibration of Om, right? But that's the outer verbalization of the sound of the universe that doesn't have to have sound, right? So there's both the verbal Om and the Om that's silent. And I have a hard time sometimes hearing the silent Om, although I'm getting better at it. But I know that there's a drum beat way in the background. So I love drums, right? And so what I do is allow way in the background, as soon as I try to hear, not just the continuous Om, but that there's a beat that's back there. And it's perpetual, right? So whether you can hear the silent Om or open to a rhythm that's in the background, be more attentive on your sitting bones, on your feet, where the center of your chest is. The coordination doesn't just have to be physical. The rhythm doesn't just have to be physical. Soften your temples, your jaw, the inside of your mouth. One of the things I tried to get across in the meditation is that those reflections is that there's always company here. Whether it's a drum beat, that's how you'd hear it. Whether it's the silent Om, whether in John O'Donohue, the strangeness of the silence of another world, there's something there. So as I hit down to the sitting bones and lift up to my chest, coordinate them as a rhythm. Down and up. Down, up, inhale, exhale, and drop your shoulder blades down. Work on this becoming a rhythm. Let go of your day. Prepare your mind to do yoga. Good, and then release. Lift your sternum. Drop your chin in a continuous, coordinated movement. Add your breath into your rib cage. Expand on inhalation. Shoulder blades drop on exhalation. If we can come forward. Good, and then raise your head up with closed eyes and open your eyes. One of the things that, before it gets all the way into movement, one of the things that I love about rhythm is that rhythm is continuous, but that doesn't mean that sound is continuous, right? So I remember, you gotta know who Robert Johnson is, the great blues guitar player that died on the crossroad, that, you know, they say sold his soul, right? Sold his soul to be able to play. He's thought to be maybe the best guitar player that ever lived, right? But he's a blues guitar player that died in the early 30s. And Eric Clapton was writing about Robert Johnson, trying to honor as a guitar player what Robert Johnson was able to play on the guitar. And his line was, so apparently what Robert Johnson was able to do was play up to 3 to 4 different versions of the song at the same time with his hands. And so what he would do was he would play just enough and give you just a hint. And then even while he was pausing or playing something else, your brain would hear the other versions, right? So he was touching different spaces, right? And yet giving you a through line and changing, and all of a sudden somehow bringing all 3 different chord progressions forward in your brain without, right? And the line that Eric Clapton said was, it's not even what Robert Johnson is playing, it's what he's not playing while he's playing that is so extraordinary, right? Because he can help you feel all of it, right? Even what is being into sound and what isn't sound. I think there's a great analogy for rhythm here. Think about rhythm is rhythm's continuous. So when you're listening to a song and there's that pause, or maybe there's a buildup, or you can hear the other progression, right? That's happening in your yoga poses, right? And the way that you start to hear the sounds between the notes to keep it continuous, right, is by being able to hear this other place. All right, so sit up straight and tall. So all this stuff about opening and feeling more and locating yourself in space, right? So this is where you're gonna get into my crazy thoughts here. Like, so I want you to just very gently and so feel your feet and your floor. We've done a zillion times, right? And I want you to just lift your sternum. And I hope you know that by lifting your sternum, I don't just mean your rib cage, right? I mean, lift the center of your sternum by broadening your shoulder blades, hitting them down and slightly forward, right? So and then release it, right? So I want you to do that a few times. So you're activating something here that actually hopefully helps you feel your feet and your sitting bones. Okay, so you're opening here, and then do it a few times in a row, right? So, and then if you can, coordinate your inhalation and exhalation to it. And then sit still. And then, like a little inkling with your memory, feel the movement of your sternum. So now start to do it again with less action. So there's so you're coordinating a movement and a lift rhythmically. So when you sit still and you try to feel it, you're feeling the rhythm, the space between the notes. Good, and then release. This is one of the real great things about sun salutation, is that if you do it enough, or a version of it, You can feel it even when you're not moving. Okay, so come forward. This is something we do a lot, right? Come up. Now we've done a limit up and over your chair. Right. Come forward. So you're watching, feeling, making it continuous and even kind of slinky, right? The movements, and you're like watching the part. So you're moving, but there's also space between the notes. And then up. So like this comes up and out of water, right? Something's rising or out of earth right there, right? And you're coming back. Then you're going like this seems to me more like the flower on a plant. This comes out here, right? And then returns back to the earth, right? Comes forward, comes towards the ground. And then it starts to grow and sprout, right? And then it's going to spring forth. And then come through again. And then up. And so be watching your sits bones too, right? And then over. And then through again. So activating your spine. So now I'm curious. We've done this a few times. Now, do whatever you need to do. Coming to the center again. Remember, find the space between the notes. Right? Do whatever you need to do in order to do the same action, but engage your consciousness differently to make it even more rhythmic. Okay, whatever you think that is. All right, so you're starting from the emptiness, the silent part, and you're starting to bring movement through it. Where's the silent om or the drum beat in the back? So you're doing this a few times. Good, and then feel, isn't one of the great things about music, another great line is life without music would be a mistake. It's by Nietzsche, right? Is that it allows you to like, or rhythm allows you to get beyond your mind. That the one, I'm an Iyengar teacher, and one of the strengths and weaknesses of Iyengar yoga is that it's not very rhythmic. And it's actually, because there's so much awareness to it, feel this, feel that, do this, do that, right? There's also a loss in having your mind having to be so consistently active. And the hope is that the repetition brings back the rhythm, right? So whatever it is that you do, now I want you to do it even littler actions. So instead of all the way forward and all the way back and all the way up, right? So imagine I'm trying to show a quadriplegic how to get benefits out of sun salutation, and they can't move as much. And their head rest is too high. So sit in a smaller space. Do this, right, in a smaller space, right? So, in fact, I'm going to break it down. So I want you to first turn, like sit however you're sitting. And now on this first movement, right, come to the front edge of your sitting bones, right? So just shift gravity this much. And as soon as you do it, notice my chest just naturally lifts, right? But all I'm doing is paying attention to that first shift and then the lift, right? So forward, lift, and then come down, right? And then go back. Forward, down, lift, and then come back. Now, add that magic rhythm, right? Forward, lift, right? And then come back. And then helps me to see it as a circle. Here's where my mind ungrips and I start to feel. So I'm actually pulling on my wheelchair seat, right? So I can come forward and up and through, right? Like this. And so I'm feeling more and more of that rhythm. And as I start to get the rhythm of this and the activation of the rhythm, I can feel my feet better. So I can include them, right? Because my spine through rhythm is filling the whole vessel, right? And this is part of what sun salutation does. It fills the vessel by activating a rhythmic movement, right? So we're just doing that a few times. And then feel that and come back into center. So now just one shoulder, right? So now there's a circle. It turns out that circles actually, for me at least, feel more rhythmic than straight lines, right? So I'm moving one shoulder and then I'm moving another shoulder, right? And then I'm going to pick up my leg and I'm going to do that in a little circle, right? Because I want there to be, and it's not just the movement. I'm trying to make it be in time with my spine. So here's what I mean. And I don't know if it's going to show on the camera, right? So there's so much. Adding rhythm can be added to anything, right? So if I just kind of think it's about the movement, that's how we're taught range of motion, right? We just move it. So no, instead, coordinate it, open it, start to bring the wisdom of rhythm into what you're doing, right? So like the hip socket gets more activated because it's rhythmic, right? Which is very different than the throwing it around. Way too often we throw our bodies around when you live with a disability, right? So then you can take the other thumb. This is really tight. I have to let it and so the action's not going to be as big for me on this one, but I'm going to try to move it in a circle, but then add my whole spine. So here's me just moving my arm. Oh yeah, it's just about my wrist. And here's me trying to become part of the movement, right? Where my spine is activating with the movement, right? And then of course I'm going to go in both directions because I'm a well-trained yogi, knowing that it's got to be both ways, right? And so I'm moving it, right? And then come back to the space between the notes. So I'm going to reposition so I know where the notes are. And I'm going to find my breath in that place. And I'm going to take one leg off to the side. See, I even just threw it there. I already dropped the continuousness of the song, right? So I'm going to pick this up. And then I'm going to lean over. And then I'm going to come back, bring it to the midline, take the other leg off, right? So already I'm beginning to lose the sense of rhythm. So now I'm going to find it here again. I'm going to find the relationship between my spine. You ever notice that you feel a good song and you dance because the song is touching your spine, not just your limbs? So I'm doing that on rhythm. I like that so much. I'm going to go back to the other side, right? Because I like the feeling of this. And I'm going to go on rhythm. So I'm pushing down and I'm like making this be more rhythmic. Beginning to coordinate my breath or not. And then back to the middle here. And then going this way. Okay. So I'm trying to get this sense of coordinated movement, more rhythmic, right? Coming in and out of action, right? Other side again. One side's probably better for you to do, right? So I'm activating and feeling the expression of my spine through my legs. So the coordination of the chest lift, the press down, the elongating spine. Of course, my mind doesn't see the back leg as much, right? So coming back into the middle again. And now feeling that openness traveling back through the midline and then up. So now, because of this side to side thing, maybe this rhythm can touch more places, right? And then back and up and over. So I'm going to come down and through. Now it's interesting now because I'm just like investigating, like now that I've felt the legs wide, I want to do this with wider legs, right? Because I think that's interesting. So I want to come forward. Ooh, this is different, right? And then up and over. And here, as I lift my chest, I want to extend up through each knee. And at first, I can tell when it's too mental, I overgrip my diaphragm, right? I try to grab there. So I'm going to let that go. Use the silence between the notes. Come forward. Come through. Up. This length seems like the note drifting off into silence, actually, in my back bend, right? And then come through. Bring your legs together. Notice when you're got less like parts to the song. So what I meant here is I go back and I figure out how to open. Here's the note coming loud, and then here's the continuation of the note. And then back through. Up. Where does the pose start to dissolve into space the way a note does? How does it lead to the next sound in the rhythm? Where's the space between? Where's the strumming of the guitar string? Where's the continuation? And then come on back to center. So we're going to go off to the side again, but then in your own. So I wish I was a better musician, but so there's the part of the pose that's going to lean over. So maybe that's the if you're playing guitar, the down strumming, right? But guitar players also strum up, right? So where's the strumming up? And then where's the continuation of the sound? Okay. So I'm going to come forward, down strum, over and start to rise up strumming, letting the sound come out my arm, and then back down and do it again. So I'm just so do it at whatever your pace is, but hear the continuousness and the expression of the sound, right? Remember, Robert Johnson's hearing the music before the listener is, right? So I gotta figure out how to just talk it too much. Forward, up, expression, down. I'm gonna stay with one side for a while. Forward, up, expression, dissipation, back to silence, right? Sitting bones, forward, down strum, up strum, the sound lingers, right? All the while, one more time, all the while, it's continuous in the background. I'm beginning to really like this. So now we got to do the other side, right? So I'm going to come in the center. That side was really sensual for me. I could feel it better, right? So forward. So I'm going to go this way. So down strum, up strum, up, and then back. Got to get away from my plant so I don't keep punching my plant. Right? So downstream, up, expression, back to the silence, right? Down, up, sound, dissipating, back to the quiet. Down, up, expression, right? And then come on back to center. So, like, if you think about it, my mind's now racing with a whole bunch of metaphors, right? But the musician plays the music. I'm just rocking back and forth. The musician plays the music, but it isn't until the expression or the sound of the music that the listener gets to participate, right? So, like, it wouldn't be as interesting if the whole class were just this. If someone were watching, it would be more interesting for them to watch once it got to here, once it got to the expression, right? So now we're going to go from side to side. So, okay, find it. And there's still the drum beat, right? Or the silent om, forward, rise, open, exhale down, fall back into the back part, inhale, downstroke, rise, express, down, fall, forward, express, down, forward, express, down, back, forward, open, down, forward, rise, express, forward. Now do a few on your own. And for me, like, I want to find the midline again. So I'm just going to go back and forth here a couple times. So I remember all the parts of the song, both what's being played and not played. Okay. Forward, rise, open. Be in the center. So like, I'm using the center, the space between the notes, to feel where the song has been. Did any of you notice how one side was tighter than the other? Like I did. So I'm just sitting here and letting that in right now. And I'm thinking, wow, so for me, it's always this side. Right. So I'm going to sit in the space between the notes and try to let more emptiness become vibrant, because I can now see how this was more closed. And I'm using the silent Om to get this happier. Not a coincidence that this is where I have the most pain in my, compared to any shoulder. So now I'm going to do something little here. Drop my chest, open my chest, right? So I'm trying to open equally and now inject rhythm into what looks like a little tiny action. So I'm going back and forth. So I'm going to forward, roll my shoulders open, even make this a rhythm, right? Forward. So now we're doing a mini version of what we just did. I want to ground my legs as I open this. For me, when I have to hear the rhythm, the continuous rhythm, I get less violent. I don't get to use my will as much, right? So I'm going to take the arms behind me. So this is a place where I often strain, right? Where I'm trying to get shoulder stand, right, enough, and I just crank. But now I want to add this sense of rhythm to it. So for me, it's really hard because I'm paralyzed here and I don't have the abdominal lift, right? But all of you make this more rhythmic. If you can do more of an action, do it. But I want to find the movement of my spine in rhythm with the rolling of my shoulders back, right? So I'm trying to coordinate little movements. Good, and then release. So now inhale and up and down, right? Exhale. Open. Inhale. Exhale. Open. Back. And to find center. I go off balance on my sitting bones. And it's the space between the notes that tells me that. Inhale. Exhale. Open. Inhale. Exhale. Open, of course, on inhalation. Back down. Right? Center. Oh, I did the wrong side. So inhale. Forward. Open. Back. Inhale. Down. Open. Back. So the one thing about rhythm, and then come back to center, for me at least, is that when I get more of my body included in it, like this rhythm is now showing me where my feet are more, especially when it comes up here and I open this space right here, it fills my whole vessel, right? Right. So when I actually get this all the way out, so we're going to do the same sequence again, and you try to look for the opportunities where all of a sudden the space between the notes, the silent Om, can all of a sudden burst into your pose, right? and express itself through your action. Okay. So inhale, exhale, come forward, open from my spine, make it go up, and then back down, back to center. This goes up, through, open. Ooh, this side is tight. I'm going to use my exhalation to drop. Inhale, open, back. I'm going to start to speed it up now. Change your speed. Let the magic of the rhythm do it. Follow along in your own song. On these last couple, I want to lead with my spine, right? So I want to make sure my spine is popping out through my hand. Right, so I'm going to go. And as my spine pops out through my hand, it goes down to my feet. And then be in the center. Find the space between the notes. One of the hardest things and most rewarding things about practicing on your own is that you're constantly practicing against the backdrop of the silent Om, right? So whereas you're in class, you get to follow, right? When you're practicing alone in the quiet of your house or whatever it is, the silence in the room is exactly what stops people from practicing themselves, is because they think that, oh, I don't know what to do here. And the mind tries to solve the quiet part of the pose, the space between the notes. No, the space between the notes becomes part of the movement, right? And so again, so I'm going to come forward on my sitting bones. I'm just going to remind myself that even when I'm sitting here in a stationary place, that's with me too, right? So I'm going to come forward again, come back, open up a little bit. So the expression is the back bending part, right? Right. And then I'm going to come back into a little space, come forward, open, back, ground, open. So the grounding becomes part of the rhythm. Come forward, press down on your legs, ground, open, back, hit the back of your chair, ground. And this can be rhythmic, how you're pushing your legs, open. So it starts to become part. Rhythm introduces continuity, right? Okay, with the silent Om. And then, so we're doing a few more of these sun salutations, right? And then come back into center. So this continuous thing, when the space between the notes becomes part of the song, right? For me, in my path, that's been a huge realization for my pranayama. Is that even when I'm on retention, at the top of my inhalation, at the bottom of my exhalation, the silent om or the drum beat when I need to be more active is the continuous part of my breath, right? So even when you're still and without movement, there's still company. My inhalation doesn't come into existence out of existence, but it draws up, pulls together. So if you were to do this type of breath awareness and clench your jaw, it would be like hitting the wrong key on a piano, right? That the song actually kind of writes itself, right? And there are actions in your asana that when they violate a sense of flow, you know they're not yogic, right? So if I grip my jaw when I'm feeling the silent om, I don't receive it the same. If I drop my chest, roll it forward, I don't feel the space between the notes the same. The song's not continuous. If I open, I love that human beings have mastered dance. And then back down. So all too often, when I live with the disability, I think that my strength is here when I'm dropped, as opposed to this. So I'm going to go back through all this. Find a rhythm to how my forearms are on my thighs now, how you press down, how you lift. Find a circle in the action. So the drop isn't just a drop into nothingness, it's the beginning of the bottom part of the circle, right? So you start to find this deep-seated rhythm here. And then include more of your body. If you want to take your head back, shoulders back, start layering on expression. So find your midline, inhale, take your arm up, bring it over to the side. We're just going to gently twist. Find the rhythm of the movement. Come back to center. Inhale up. Find the continuous movement to include the space between the notes. Right. It's never not humming. Center again. sit and in the space between the notes. Feel whatever you feel. You know, songs have structure, but it doesn't change the rhythm. There's still rhythm. It's not in this empty, grounded emptiness where you can feel where you've been moving. Just watch how your breath travels through this space. Softening the temples, the jaw, the inside of the mouth. Noticing the space, feeling the space behind in the distant background. All right, and then prepare for Shavasana. Feel the symmetry. Soften the jaw, the inside of the mouth. Receive your chair. Feel your breath. Don't change it. Thank your body. It literally shows you life. Start to bring yourself back. Slightly deeper inhalation, slightly longer exhalation. When you're ready, open your eyes. And then close them and open them again. Maybe then, let the outside of your lips come slightly up. Right? Right here. It's not a bad gesture. It's a pretty good expression for the top of your spine. Right? As long as you don't force it. It actually opens the world to you. I feel bad that people whose default expression is a frown, right? It literally closes down the top of their spine, right? So it's like, And if I can coordinate the influx of sunlight with my smile, with my spine, then somehow the world keeps making a little bit more sense, right? Just a little bit. Don't need a lot. Just need a little bit of it to make sense.